specific cases and treat them separately because of the nature of the crime. And I think you also in agreement with that. I think all of us are in agreement of...
I also just want to bring in the point that, that I completely agree with you, that I feel that the juvenile jails are a far better arrangement than adult jails because the kind of things that happen there. But I do feel that we do need to think about reform. You know, we should not get lax on that, and as juvenile homes need to also be, you know, have those systems of reform which can make these young adults into reformed individuals. But I would rather that person, rather than having a criminal on the streets because the law didn't allow him to be tried as an adult, I would rather that he be behind bars and on the streets. Because we don't have those reform systems in place, and that's the truth of the matter. If we had a great reform system in which we knew that these 16 or 15 or 14-year-olds are going in, then I can understand why this law may be a big problem. But while we don't have this, I think the better alternative is to be hard about it and have these people behind bars.
I accept your point completely. Yeah. I think reforming a young criminal is much easier than reforming a hardened criminal who's been in jail for years as an adult. I agree with that.
Abhay, you were wanting to say something from your side?
I mean, I'm just wondering why people aren't more vocal about reform and infrastructure as opposed to the law. For me, really, I keep saying, I think the law is a shortcut. It's an excuse not to implement
but in that period,
but then,
you know...
Then to add flame to the fire, what would you tell a person who's a victim, who's gone through something which is very heinous, and the person knew about the consequences? So does this, like you're saying, it's a shortcut. So do you feel that, no, we shouldn't have this and fine, let them be treated just as juveniles? Is that what you're saying? Because at the end of the day then...
I'm saying you have to find a middle ground, like as they were mentioning, if they can take specific cases and treat them separately because of the nature of the crime, and I think you also in agreement with that. I think all of us are in agreement of...
But not treat them as adults.
But not treat them as adults. No, that I'm not for. So because I think, like I said, this boy who was in the Nirbhaya case, who was raped and grew up on the streets, you think there aren't 30, 40, 50, 60,000 more of him right now? You don't have to be in a jail to be raped and be hardened. Life will do that to you. Just because we have kids on the streets right now. And these could be possibly a future rapists. I'm not saying rape doesn't happen within higher societies, it does. And that's a different set of crime altogether, it's a different group of people altogether. So you've got to take it each and compartmentalize it. And one of the problems is that, you know, they grow up in such environments that they get hardened by the time they're 16, 17.
But unfortunately, law is universal and we cannot compartmentalize
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm saying there are various things. But I'm saying that one of the issues we do have is poverty, you know. It's a breeding ground for all sorts of criminals. Why are we not addressing that? Because everything is connected at the end of the day. Just by saying, okay, lower it from 18 to 16 isn't going to make it go away. That's my issue. My issue is that might be an excuse to not take care of everything else.
That makes poverty away. I mean, you know, America has higher living standards than us. I think their rate of violent crime is far greater than India's. So it's not just a question of poverty. Of course, poverty is a contributing factor, but the fact of the matter is that a crime is a crime and people have to do the time. And if there are mechanisms like the Juvenile Justice Board inserted into this act that exist, then I'm quite in favor of the act going forward as saying that a 16-year-old who is judged to be conscious of adult responsibilities and the consequence of his crime should be tried as an adult. That's the crux of this debate today. And I think I would like to be clear that while I completely endorse what you're saying as far as the necessity of reform and prevention is important, the fact of the matter is, if a crime is done, the time must be served. But it should be served in a way that is just. Even punishment has to be just. Juveniles should not be put in adult jails. They should be put in juvenile homes with the emphasis on reform. So I accept that point of yours. But I also believe that today's young people and today's 16-year-olds are no less cognizant than the 20-year-olds of the last 100 years.
Okay, Nishit sir was having expressions coming in and he had raised his hand.
So a point for the opposite end of the spectrum. You know, I mean, everybody knows about the level of corruption that exists in government and in politics today. There are enormous number of laws, and many politicians and many people, corrupt people, have faced the music. Has it brought down the level of corruption? At the opposite end, people who are...
That is one of my points.
Let's please understand.
No, but let's not digress from the fact that we have a situation in our country where things are happening not according to our wishes. Today's discussion is mainly based on there is something that's coming up in the monsoon session. And that is the Justice Juvenile Act and the amendments.
Rule of law, that's all it all boils down to rule of law. If it is implemented, even the adults will be too scared to commit those crimes, yeah? But it's not. We're not supported by rule of law. So then what's going to stop the young 16-year-old from being scared? Why would he be when we don't take our judicial system seriously, when cases can go on for 10, 20 years, when corruption is an all-time high? What's going to stop them? Just a little change in the law, but the law can be abused all the time.